Hello, everyone, and welcome to Quest, a journey into true crime and the paranormal. I have with me Marita Crandle. She is the author of several books, and we're going to talk about some of those tonight. And you also have a new book that's recently out. So we are about to have a really in-depth conversation about those books that she's written, all of her ventures, the Vampire Café, the Apothecary, potions, and who knows what else, and she may even own this place where I'm talking. We don't know, but anyway, we'll talk about that. And I'm really wanting to get into the Casket girls.
Okay.
I don't know why. I know that was part of your book in the New Orleans Vampire book.
Yes, and that was the most interesting one to research. They had the most meat to the story and the most really historical information. And I have really done a lot with the Casket Girls. In fact, in the Apothecary now, we have the Casket Girl Attic. Do you know about that?
Okay, now that's the top floor of the Ursuline convent.
Yes.
When the Casket Girls, they came over 17, was that 19, something like that, 21. I have to admit, I am kind of jealous. Because you got to go up in the attic, and that's not very heard of, is it?
No, I'm one of the few people in the world that's had a tour of the attic, and it was mesmerizing. And especially, doing all the research and finding out about who they were. They were women who were brought here, young women, who were brought here from France to help populate New Orleans and give men a reason to stay and actually colonize the city, marry and have children. And something diabolical happened to them on the ship. The woman who was in charge of them was Sister Gertrude, and this part's all true. And we will never know what she actually did to them. I researched everything I could find. I just know that there was some horrible thing she did. And so it makes it so easy. Like in my rendition of the story, she was, well, in true life, she was sent back to France immediately. And then in my rendition, she was sent back in cat form, because there was always a black cat around the convent, to look over them for eternity to make sure that they never get out. And so if you go to my attic, if you go to my website, which I'll tell you later, I have a research tab that actually has pictures, because they wouldn't let me publish this in the book. But my whole experience of the day, and it was one of my favorite days of my life. It was amazing. But in our attic, we have a room above the Apothecary that we call the Casket Girl Attic. And it's a lounge, and in there we have a cat shadow behind bars, and that's Sister Gertrude. So we at least have her soul held captive so she never does anything diabolical again.
Wow.
It's really very cool.
See, I didn't know about that. Now, see, that's a surprise to me. So I'm going to have to come and check it all out. Now, when you were up there in the attic, you said that there were holes or something cut into the floor that would perfectly fit a casket.
Yes.
And you said, and if I'm wrong on the quote, please correct me, and you wondered if the caskets were removed because you were coming?
It looked like everything had been removed because I came. So the woman who took me up there was darling, and she actually left me on the second floor before we went up there. We had lunch first, and it was pouring rain, and then even getting to the convent was exciting. And then she left me on the second floor, and there were windows that overlooked the cathedral inside the convent. And also these old books, like from the 1700s, all in French. And I mean, I'm a book freak. And so it was really hard to even get out of there. But then she came and got me. And the walls, everything had been stripped from the walls except for like the wooden planks. The real thin wooden sheets on walls when you take all the scaffolding or the stucco off. And all the walls were like that, and all the rooms were empty. And I thought that was really interesting, because real estate in the French Quarter is very expensive. So I expected to see statues and, I don't know, old paintings, filing cabinets, something. There was nothing up there. And one of the rooms we got to, all the lights were off. And I think she did that on purpose to give me a really good experience. But the light beams from outside were going through these wooden slats, and it almost looked like laser beams over these holes where they were exactly big enough for coffins. There were like 6 of them, and they were shooting over these holes. It was like to keep them at bay during the day. Otherwise it would be dark up there. Mm-hmm. And so then we went to another room that was really creepy. So all the rooms had wooden floors except for one, and it had brick floors and a door that had just enough space to, like, it was like a French door, or a Dutch door where you can put something through. And she said, you know why that is? It's so the nuns would be safe. And I thought, safe from what, you know? And the floor, she said, it was brick so that they could easily wash off all bodily fluids. And there were chains in the back of the room. And so I said, you know, safe from what? Like vampires? And she just smiled. But it was really, it was just horrifying. They kept the mentally insane up there. And imagine already being mentally insane and then being in that situation with no windows, chains. And I mean, it was pretty terrifying. And the whole attic was just empty and dark. And then she let me look out the dormer window. And it's my favorite picture. It's in that research tab. It's all black in the room, and just a little light is coming through the dormer window. And I couldn't stop standing there because I felt like I was one of the vampires looking out. You know, that all the tours go by and look in, and I was actually standing there, and I didn't want to leave. It was so, so cool. It's amazing. So that's why I wanted to create the feel of that in our attic, and I think I captured it. I think you'll be really surprised how beautiful it is.
Wow. The shutters, they're saying that they were sealed. Is that part?
So they're sealed with 32 blessed screws, and when one opens up, they're immediately closed again. And again, it's odd because, you know, heat rises, and so in these old buildings, you'd want to have air go through, but they are very strict about keeping those shutters closed, and she wouldn't give up. Why? Vampires.
Yeah, well, sure. Now, you know, you were saying that they were blessed, and I guess that was back, you know, from whomever, like a priest or
the Monsignor it was supposed to be.
Okay, but when Pope John Paul II came to New Orleans, what was that, in the 80s or something? He actually, I read, was supposed to have blessed
the screws
again. Yeah,
amazing.
So I'm just saying that's what I read. You know, you can't, you know, but that would be cool because he would have had to known, because the Pope just don't stop by everywhere.
Right.
You know, so that's just interesting to me that if that is true, that he, you know, like,
why did he bless
like there's a lot of, I mean, he could be busy all day blessing stuff in New Orleans,
right?
But then, you know, you bless those silver screws. Why? Like, not only are you trying to keep something out, but you're trying to keep something in too.
Right.
So that's really cool. Now, the Battle of New Orleans, I think, was what was that, around 1815, something like that. Andrew Jackson, as we know, you know, the Battle of New Orleans, and, you know, he came and personally thanked the nuns for their support and their prayers. So what I was thinking, because as you know, I'm all into the paranormal and I do like tons and tons of research. And so I thought it was kind of coincidental that how he would go to the convent, you know, even though with the rumors of the Casket girls and everything, because that was over 100 years before he was president,
right,
about the Casket girls, or even, you know, even more than that. But what I thought was interesting was when I don't know if you've heard of the Bell Witch in Tennessee.
I have, but I don't remember the story.
She was a witch that cursed the Bell family, and just for years, and they would hear her, and she just made their life a living hell. And it's rumored that he also visited the family of the Bell Witch there to see if he could see. So I just thought that was kind of
interesting.
Yeah, it is, because I was like, oh wait, that's two things. So he must have been interested in maybe the occult or the paranormal or something for his name to be associated with two interesting, mysterious, you know, cases like that. So that's just something, a little tidbit, no extra charge, that I wanted to throw into the, you know, to the story about that, how that he's kind of linked with two different big events, you know, for that. So for those of y'all who do not know about the Casket Girls, it is so very interesting. And could you explain to everyone why they called them that?
So casket in French is a little trousseau. Only in America was it a casket, an actual something you would carry a body in. My goal was to find out the very first time they were actually called the Casket Girls, and I found it. And they were just sent over here with these trousseaus, very small trousseaus, filled with very humble things. And the city mistook it that they came with caskets. And so that started the rumor that they were smuggling vampires or they themselves were vampires. But there was also a procession from the Bienville house to the convent, and the Casket girls were cloistered. And the girls and the nuns were cloistered, but they still wanted to put on a parade. So some of them were behind like curtains, and I thought what a great way for them to actually bring the vampires from the Granville house to the Ursuline convent in public view.
Yeah, and then nobody was the wiser because I think that was before Mardi Gras.
Yes.
Like the first paraders, I guess. And so, yeah, then people got upset when they kind of thought that they were bringing vampires or something. And, even they were saying, well, when they came off the ship, the girls, of course, I mean, if they were on there for months and months, that they had were very pale and, sickly looking, that just comes with being on a ship like that, I'm sure, for months and months. But do you do believe that that's what, do you believe that that's what they did, or is it just like more to the story?
It's more to the story.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I love it.
I hate to ruin legends, but there's a little truth to everything. And so, I mean, I like to leave it as an open possibility because it could be true. We don't know everything.
Right.
And so I'd rather leave it like that. But, when you look at all the real details of things, it wasn't really even the Ursuline nuns that brought them over. They changed a lot of the story. And if you read my book, you'll find all that out. But there still is enough room for the legend to live on, for sure.
People will be talking about this for 300. I mean, it's been over 300 years, and they'll be talking about it, I'm sure, for 300 more. But let me see if you not remember, but have maybe researched about something that happened in the 70s there at the convent. Now, they were having a tour or something, and there were some ghost hunters that kind of hid themselves because they were wanting to stay overnight and investigate the convent.
Unfortunately, there's no actual proof
It's not true.
Well, I don't know that it's not true. I couldn't find any proof of it. And I do really good research when I do research, but I could not find anything in all of the files about that particular incident of the girls. So the story was that they were murdered while they were investigating. They were perched outside the convent all night long. And when they were found, they had been attacked and they were missing a lot of blood. But I personally could not find anything about that, even though I love that story.
That is a good story. It has drama. It has everything,
Well, and sometimes you got to look at yourself and realize how crazy. I'm just going to talk about this for a second.
Sure.
So I wrote this book, Mosquito, Southern Vampires, and it's about the Casket girls and other legends. So it's a penny dreadful. There's ghosts and werewolves and witches and vampires. In my story, the vampires are held they get out of the convent, but they're held into the French Quarter by a witch's curse. The river is a really dangerous spot because that's where they drop bodies. And they made a deal with the nuns that they would only attack criminals. People are going missing. And so people are dropped by the river and they find bite marks. And then just the other day, I was told there was a serial killer in the French Quarter. Well, I did research. I can't find a serial killer, but there was a murder down on Esplanade by the river. And it was a woman in her, I think she was 44, and she was found with bite marks. And I thought, wow, that is amazing. I just put that in my story. And it made me, I wouldn't say happy, but, it brought life to my mystery. And I thought, how sick is that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's sick. Like the Axeman.
Yeah.
Is the most romantic serial killer I can think of. He wanted to, kill people that weren't listening to jazz. And so we romanticized that. And I started romanticizing this, but a woman died. And, you got to come back to reality sometimes and think about, there's good things with the supernatural and everything, but we got to look at reality too.
I've talked to you before, interviewed you before at the Haunted Hotel, and as everybody know, the Axeman, I have this thing, and, we talked there on scene, and it was, we did a little investigation and stuff, and it was really, we had a couple of things that happened, and that's something that you really haven't done a lot of is actual investigations, I don't believe, as far as looking for ghosts or something, because, you like the more into the vampire stuff, so I do understand.
So I do have a good story about that. Okay. In our Casket Girl attic, It used to be a dining room. It's still designed to be the Casket Girl attic, but it wasn't really working that great. So I thought, you know what? Let's make this a lounge where people can come and play games. And I even put a story. I have ancient games up there, like Senet is an old Egyptian game. Shut the Box is one of the first games ever invented. And my story is that the Casket girls had nothing else to do, and so they played a lot of games. So if you come up and play a game, you never know who you might conjure.
Right.
But since I did that, just since the lounge has been a lounge, everybody, customers, totally unrelated to my staff, has seen a woman with a bun. And she walks from the seance lounge to the attic behind the bar. And so many people have seen her, a short woman with a bun. And they haven't mentioned an age or anything, but that's weird. So that happened. And then one of my barbacks, he was taking apart chairs for me, and he came back down and he was acting really strange. And he said, I'm going to go back up. And I go, okay, And then he was doing something else. He goes, I'm going to go back up. And I said, okay, He goes, no, okay. So I was up there and I saw a shadow and it really freaked me out. But I'm going to go back up. I said, okay, well, when you're comfortable. So then a different barback was up there filling our blood bags that we sell, the vodka, whatever.
The Fangria?
Fangria, yes.
Yeah.
And so he had them sitting on the ground in a crate, 50 of them. And he went to the bathroom and he heard a noise. And when he came out, they were on the floor sideways and they were all spewed about. And he came down and he was actually angry because he thought somebody did it to mess with him. And I said, nobody has been up there because there were only 5 of us and we were all downstairs talking. And it was in that time frame of a half an hour, like when that nobody had been up there. And so he couldn't believe it. And I said, no, really, no, it's just the 5 of us. No one has been up there. So there's something going on up there. So maybe if you want to come do some researching up there, it might be good.
I would have to say yes.
Okay. I would love that.
Oh my God. I would love that so much. So y'all stay tuned. It makes you wonder, did you, by you recreating in a sense that attic, now did a spirit get confused?
I think she's comfortable because it wasn't comfortable before.
Yeah.
And even for customers, it wasn't comfortable. And now it's very comfortable. So I think maybe she's been there but come out. Or I don't know, maybe more than one spirit. People have said they feel different spirits. Like we have psychics that work for us.
Sure.
And they've all experienced something and many times over, but pretty much different entities. And none of them are, wicked in any way. Everything has been very calm, and except for knocking over the blood bags. I hope that's the worst that can happen.
Right. I mean, some people are like, geez, if that's all that... I mean, we got off on not got off on the Casket girls, but just went into it, because I've been really excited to talk to you about that. And to learn more about it. I'm trying to think, I'm just looking and seeing if there's anything that we may have, left out or, it was 258 women that they sent.
Right.
Yeah. So that was
a lot more within, there's only supposed to be 7 up in the attic. That's been the legend. And so, it's really interesting though, even the age range and these poor girls, what they went through. So they were in a horrible place called Le Sepulchre, and it was a mental hospital, a prison, and an orphanage. And they were, they had no life whatsoever. So being promised, being married and coming to America, and they made America sound so lovely. And what they were in for was being married to a woodsman from Canada. Horrible thing, really. So those poor girls, being vampires would be probably their best option.
They're like, okay, do you want to be married to a Canadian woodsman or be a vampire? When that's hands down. Yeah. Vampire. So let's talk about the vampire culture. The executive jobs, advertising and different things in California. And so you visited here in New Orleans. And from how we discussed before, it was like you knew the moment you got here that you belonged and that this place was for you.
And so many people have that story.
Yeah.
And I'm not unique in that. And it's amazing how that happens. You're literally, I talk to customers all the time that, come to see one of my restaurants or something, and they say, I don't want to leave. But it was so strong that I was heartsick every time I left. And that's when I got the little apartment thinking it would make me feel better, because I never would have just put my house on the market and say I'm moving to New Orleans. I just wouldn't have done that. But I got this little apartment, and I came Halloween weekend to promote Vampire Wine at the Endless Night event. And then I ended up selling my house over the phone. I just couldn't leave. It's just an amazing place. There's just so much culture, not just supernatural culture, but I mean, everything here, from you could just go on coffee and slavery and music and the cuisine, and I mean, it's just amazing. And then you add the supernatural, and it makes it really fun. But then I wanted to open up a little vampire shop because I thought people go on the vampire tours, and then there's nothing to do afterwards, and they still want to be in the moment. And so my shop became very successful because of that. And that's what then the restaurant, well, actually, then it was Potions, my speakeasy, because people wanted to linger. And in my shop, it's so tiny, there's nowhere to linger. So I thought it'd be so cool if I could open up a little bar. And so that happened. And then when the restaurant attached to my shop became available, it was a no-brainer that I had to have it.
For those of you who do not know, it's called Vampire de Boutique.
Boutique Du Vampyre.
Close.
21 years.
Right.
And we have over almost 150 artists that make things just for us. And we make a lot of our own products. And we have 3 floors. So the 3rd floor is like our workspace. We do our own candles up there that are the fortune candles, which we're kind of famous for. They have little charms inside. And I have the most talented staff. They make, my favorite thing, if you go online and look on Facebook or Instagram, they were so excited to get it too, the Steak Maker 3000.
Oh, what?
So we sell steaks, right? And it actually does make steaks, I suppose, to put into the ground. But of course, we feel that it has to be for vampires.
Of course.
So we only want to, we want those around for rogue vampires. We don't want to kill vampires. But we have a guy who makes them, and it's just the cutest video of him making these steaks. And we sell them like crazy.
Now, even during the pandemic, you had the mask, the face mask. Yes. That had the smile with the fangs, and it was so cute, it was so cute.
That was really cute.
Yeah, that was cute. Yeah. And so you have that, and then you opened up the Vampire Cafe.
Well, then it was Potions.
Potions was before the Vampire Cafe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've had the boutique for 21 years, the the Potions for 7 years, the Vampire Cafe, it'll be 4 years. We opened them all on New Year's Eve, which is really strange. I didn't mean to, it just was coincidental, and the timing worked out. And I think it's great. I mean, so we have our anniversary. But the Apothecary, my newest one, it's a restaurant, but it's also a vampire apothecary. So we have our fangsmith there. We have fortune tellers there. We're going to do a seance there. It's a seance-themed dinner. Mm-hmm. But so for the first half hour, it's a meet and greet with the other people that are attending. There's 12. And then past hors d'oeuvres, and you get a 1-card reading, and you get to keep the card.
Oh, wow.
And then it's a 5-course meal that our chef creates, and it'll be different all the time. And then after that, you have a choice of doing a real seance with one of our psychics or a magic-themed seance with our magician.
Now, that's cool. Now, I did notice on y'all's website that you offer, like, escape rooms and, like, adventures that people can purchase and just really
immerse themselves.
Immerse, yeah, that's exactly the word I was looking for. Immerse themselves all in the...
So we've had some people do the full thing where they arrive at night and a limo picks them up with blood bags so they can rejuvenate from their trip. And it took them to the Place des Armes Hotel, which has some rooms that are vampire friendly with no windows. And then I pick them up and we do a wine tasting, and we go to several different locations, and we do fine dining, and they learn a lot about the historical aspects of the French Quarter, but also vampires and ghosts and everything else that we have, Rougarou, and then they go hunting, and it's fun. And they have to go to the escape room, which is a vampire escape room. So it's a lot of fun.
I mean, that just sounds so amazing. And you also have someone there that, I know all of your psychics and stuff are amazing, but you have one that's very amazing, and he has been a guest on my show, Richard Lael Lillard, the gentleman psychic, and he does readings also for you. And for those of you who do not know, y'all need to look him up, because when I tell you, he is such a blessing, so knowledgeable and just so sincere, and just really he's
special.
And he is, and you can't help but feel that way about him when you're around him.
I agree. He's doing something cool for us. It's you have a tea and leaf lessons. So he teaches you actually how to read tarot while you're drinking vampire teas, and learning about tea leaf readings as well. And he does a really nice job. People are very happy with the class. It's $100 for, I believe it's like 2 hours.
Your website is feelthebite.com, is that correct?
So it's nolavampires.com,
okay.
And that's where all the businesses are. So then you get to see, the Apothecary, the cafe, and the boutique.
So that's all in the Where did I get fillthebite.com?
So that's just the boutique.
Okay.
So if you go to that, you'll just find the boutique.
Okay, the boutique. But no, we want everybody to look at everything. So your first book, okay, when you came and you were like, okay, the vampire, because didn't have the shop, like you said, had the tours, but didn't have the shop, didn't really have the afterlife and the promotion as much as what you've done for New Orleans and the vampire culture. And so, what kind of, like, that's what I want to do.
So once I opened up the shop, I'm a writer, and I was writing a novel, The Carter Brothers, which is still not out. And the only reason it's not out is because I found a really great agent, and she told me that I had to take out 10 characters. And so I was done with the book, and this is before I opened up the Vampire Café. And it's about one of the legends. So the three legends are the Casket girls, the Carter Brothers, and Saint Germain. I've taken them all out, but I completely have to rewrite the ending. And it's going to take me about 2 months of complete quiet time, because I wrote most of the book during the pandemic, and my husband would bring me my breakfast, and I would just go in that office and start writing, and I'd be there all day long. Wow. And it was a weird existence. I even told my mother one time, it's weird because I like it, but I know when I go in the morning, I'm not coming out until it's dark at night. It was really weird, but I wrote it all, and it's a quite extensive novel. But now I have to rewrite the ending, and I want it to be a fantastic ending because it's a really nice book. So meanwhile, I opened up the Vampire Café, and then I just felt like I had to write something, so I started writing the Penny Dreadful, and it came out as a true Penny Dreadful, one pamphlet a week, and in the back was a recipe, and so each one is a cliffhanger. But then my publisher put it all together, and it's really nice. And then I was just getting ready to finish that, and then I was going to dive into into the Carter Brothers again, and then the Apothecary happened, so now I'm all consumed with that. And now I'm working on the sequel for Mosquito first. It's just going to be 2 books in the series. And this one has recipes. The next one is going to have potions, like elixirs and medicinal recipes, and also continue the story. So after that, I'm putting everything else on the shelf, not opening any more businesses, and I'm going to finish the Carter Brothers. And then I have like 6 books lined up after that.
Wow. So if we're going to talk to you, we got to talk to you soon. Because you'll be like, Misty, do not text me during this time.
That's very true. I'm really busy right now.
Yeah, you are. And I do appreciate you, taking the time because I know how busy you are. So your husband, great man. I met him a few times, and he really is and one thing that I really appreciate about him, he's so supportive of what you do. I just, I know that you appreciate that too. And when you find that partner and that support, because I know I have it in my life. And so that just gives you that extra push and that extra, like kind of security that you need to realize your dreams and stuff.
I think even more than that, my husband gives me balance because he is very not into the supernatural or anything vampire related.
Right.
However, he is a trooper. And he gets, he has fun with it. So when he worked at the boutique, people would come in and constantly, ask him, "Are you a vampire?" And instead of being like, "Oh God, here I go again," he'd stand up, and he's 6'6" and black and, and big. And he'd say, "Hi, I'm Blackula." And so it was fun that he was having fun with it. And he came up, we have vampire rubber duckies, and he said, "Oh, that's Count Quackula," and so he, it's been fun. And he also, it was funny when I opened up the Speakeasy, I told him, "Look, we're going to have to work there." And he's like, "Oh, that's cool. I want to work that's great. I like the bar thing." I said, "But it's going to be a vampire bar." And he's like, "Oh my God, Marita." And I said, "And every single bartender has to know magic tricks." And he's like, "I'm not doing that." And I said, "Yeah, you're going to love it, right?" So I taught him all these magic tricks, and he was the biggest ham. I mean, he couldn't stop. I'm like, "Okay, I got to make some drinks too." He became really popular for doing our magic tricks, and he loved it. Even like the Ann Rice Ball, we are the major sponsor for that, and it's so much fun to go. And he always, I designed his costumes, and he's always this huge hit, better costumes than mine. And I love that for him because everyone wants to take pictures with him, and it makes it fun for him, So he's supportive, but I know it must be difficult for him sometimes, but he makes it fun. So that makes it fun for me.
So like you said, the balance is the most important thing because it, you balance for him also. So it's just, it's really cool. Is there a stigma? Because I know that there is, like for psychic mediums sometimes, and it seems like it's not as much anymore of having a stigma, because people, kind of wanted to push under the rug, like if they had abilities or talking, if they went, they didn't want people to know if they consulted a psychic medium or anything. Do you think that there's a stigma concerning the vampires based on maybe how that they are portrayed, or what is your take on that?
I think, so I'm not very into the real vampire culture of people who honestly believe themselves to be vampires, where there's a gentleman that you can even watch it online. It's Belvazar Ashantase, who works for Voodoo Authentica, and he really identifies as that, and he has to drink blood, and he has people that are donors, and he like cuts their back and drinks blood out of their back. And I'm not a fan of that part of it, and I don't want to like. Certainly, there is a thing as a psychic vampire. We've all met them, people that just drain you the minute they walk into a room, right?
I know some.
So, yeah. But I think people are fascinated by them, by all these, people that really identify as vampires. And I don't know if there's a stigma, but I think definitely people have become more open to, like, well, maybe it's just because I live in the French Quarter. Really, we're so lucky there because there's no judgments. And when you have people that come outside to visit in, they're here to have fun. And so they're fascinated by everything. So I think we're really lucky because I know, like, when I go traveling sometimes, it's weird watching people judge other people. I'm not used to that anymore, and so we're really lucky because I don't think that happens here.
Because we're like in a bubble, kind of in a way, and then like you said, when you go into other cities or states and it's not as...
Right.
Yeah.
So there probably is. We just don't see it so much
thank
here.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to think of the French Quarter as a snow globe. In fact, I want to create one. And like now and then we get shaken up, and it would like be bats flying around. But now and then we get shaken up, by a storm or something, and people look in at us and they like to see what's going on. But we pretty much have our own little secret, like, bubble, and I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's the best way I've ever heard New Orleans described, because it is true, like a snow globe.
Yeah.
And we're, people look and they wish that they were in the snow globe lots of times, but not everybody gets to be there.
Right.
So, those of us that are, it's really cool.
It's special.
And, it is special. And, you're very busy. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's really my pleasure. Thank you.
And so I'm going to come investigate. Thank you.
You must. I think you're really
Oh my
nice
God,
there.
I would be so excited, and especially if I could tap into the lady with the bun or whomever is there, but that would be really cool. So everybody go to, could you, Nola Vampire?
NolaVampires.com.
Right. And check out, and I mean, there's books. I mean, you wrote a book on the Johnny White Bar. You wrote a book about Josie Arlington and the Storyville and that and New Orleans vampires, and now her new book, Mosquito, Southern Vampire, which I think is a cool title because God knows we have mosquitoes for real. We have mosquitoes and vampires, so you combined them. So I think that's really cool, and so be sure to frequent the Apothecary, Potions, the Vampire Café, and the Boutique, because I never can say that right. But thank y'all so much, and you know what? I will see you next week. Thank you, Marita.
Thank you.
Good night.